God the great I am, King of heaven.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another edition of our online catechism class. I hope everybody is doing well, and since our church is open now, I hope many of you are going to the church to see the Mass. So, what we are going to be looking at today is lesson number 9, New Orientations of the Apostolic Activities. After this, we will probably be going to the non-detail and then some of the basic prayers so that we can cover the portions for your first semester. So after this we might have a few live sessions as well to talk about the upcoming semester exams and a few other activities that have been planned for you. If you remember, I had shared the competition about Mona Act. So please, I want the students to pick out a topic, and as per the rules given, I want you to make the video and then send them to me at the earliest. I hope you saw the theme and the other rules given for the competition. If not, I'll just read them out as well. Mona Act is for the 9th and the 10th boys and girls. Any theme from the New Testament for a time duration of 3 minutes. The dialogue has to be said by the participant itself. No recorded dialogues or background music is allowed. No costumes and makeup is allowed as well. Evaluation is based on facial expression, delivery of the dialogue, clarity, and creativity. So I hope all the students should participate. The dates for the competition will be given soon. It will probably be in the upcoming weeks of September. So I suggest all the students to prepare for the same and then record your videos. It will be only an online competition. So please record your videos and then, depending on the dates, edit them and then send them to me as required. Now on with our lesson number 9, New Orientations of the Apostolic Activities. Introduction. Now the risen Lord appeared to disciples, and you know what he said. As the Father has sent me, so I send you. Go into all the world and proclaim the good news to the whole creation. We see that in both John and Mark. Church is a sacrament and continuation of Jesus in this world. The church is appointed to continue the salvific mission of Jesus in this world. And the church has been ever committed to this. She had to overcome many obstacles to fulfill this mission. Many of her children suffered torture and became martyrs. In spite of that, she has not turned back from her missionary commission. So ever since Jesus had talked about the mission that the apostles are supposed to carry out, it has been passed down to us from generation to generation. And as we have seen in many lessons before, again we will be talking about missionary as a whole. But how the apostolic activity that was handed out from Jesus can be taken a look at in the modern world, in the world right now. That is what we'll be looking at in this particular lesson. Church, the continuation of Jesus and the messenger of his mission. Again, it is self-explanatory. We have been talking about this for a lot of time. The salvation which Jesus gave is not only liberation of the soul, but the liberation of man. Hence, the goal of the church is the total liberation of man. She is always in the forefront to work for the liberation of the oppressed, the exploited, the weak and the neglected, and she identifies herself with them. She lovingly points out the mistakes of the oppressors and denounces them strongly. She objects to the exploitation and disparities are based on religion, color, caste, etc. The church conscientizes individuals and societies to liberate them from all evils that enslave them. Just as Jesus had come for the liberation of us, we are continuing the activity of Jesus through the church. Church, the conscience of the world. In the modern world, the church tries, like Jesus, to be conscience of the world. The church gives a leadership to evaluate all the social, economic, and political circumstances which are against the growth of individuals and society to take suitable decisions. The world keenly looks to the church for the proper response and solutions to any and every event in the world, not only for the things against faith and morals, but also for the things that endanger the welfare of man. The world leaders keenly listen to what the Pope says on such issues. I think this might be very relevant with Pope Francis, because he has visited a lot of countries, a lot of important people, and then he not only talks about faith and morals, but also about the welfare of man. That is what they are trying to teach here. In the world today, the church strives for the development of man in various ways. She uses means like education, politics, social services, media, etc. for this. And the most important among them is education. Educational apostolate. The aim of proper education is to form the personality of an individual with man's final end in view. Such an education aims at the integral development of the person. The goal of education should be to realize values like love, truth, justice, fraternity, peace, etc. in one's life. Education must help individuals to avoid evil and to accept good. It must be also enable people to study the problems like poverty, ignorance, slavery, exploitation, etc. and to eradicate them. The Second Vatican Council teaches that the aim of Christian education is not only the maturity of a person, but also a training in the faith and morals. The important aim of Christian education is to help man to attain that perfect personality in accordance with the perfection of Jesus. Hence, the Church takes pains to establish educational institutions to renew them according to the changes of times and to give the students good education. The Second Vatican Council teaches also about the responsibility of parents to provide their children good education. Here, you can see the several educational institutions that are set up in our eparchy. I'm sure most of them are familiar to you, and a lot of you are already in the school as well. So that is why the church sets up a lot of educational institutions. So because, as I said in the previous paragraph, education is very important to understand the conscience of the world. Okay, it helps the students and people to understand what is good and evil, to understand values like love, truth, justice, and to study how to deal with problems such as poverty, ignorance, slavery, and so on. That is why education is very important, and the educational institutions are one of the first few things, along with medical care, that any missionary would set up in a missionary place. So that is the importance of education here. I would like to give you an activity where I want you to list out all the educational institutions in our eparchy. You just need to list them out, you don't need to explain them. You can find the list online as well. This will also be a good time for you to take a look at the website of our eparchy as well. Continuing on with the lesson, apostolate of the media. Now, media is not a new thing for any of you. Even the class that we are doing today is through a media called the internet, video conferencing through YouTube, and so on. Okay. Media's influence human mind to such an extent that human mind is almost its slave. The Second Vatican Council has published a decree on the influence of media. The Council says that in addition to giving knowledge and entertainment, it is very helpful in spreading the kingdom of God. But till recent times, the attention of the Church was mainly focused only on publications. The knowledge or art of the printing press was discovered by Gutenberg, a German. I hope you remember him because he was the first one to print the Bible. Following that, Christians contributed many spiritual books and other books helping social progress. When electronic media spread, the attention of the Church turned to it. The Mother Church reminds the children to use media like cinema, radio, TV, computer, internet, etc. for the proclamation of the gospel. The decree of social communication media exhorts like this. The sons and daughters of the Church have the responsibility to help and defend the Catholic newspapers, magazines, radio, television, cinema programs, and their releasing centers, which work to defend and spread the truth and give a Christian touch to human society. In the same way, the Council requests individuals and organizations who have the technical knowledge and economic power to help generously by giving their talents and expert service to use these media for apostolate and building up true culture. Now we have a lot of media related to our Christian culture, newspapers, magazines, TV channels, news channels, and a lot more. The modern church living in the internet age needs the use of technology very much. The children of the church should get acquainted with it and learn to use it. The misuse of the internet leads the community, especially the youth, to immorality. Immorality basically means evil deeds. okay, which are not moral, against the society, something like that. We have to be alert against it. The Pontifical Council for Social Communication Media has published 2 decrees, namely the Church and Internet and the Morality in Internet, to save the children of the Church from this danger. The decree on the Church and the Internet reminds us that when modern technology gives new ways to proclaim gospel to the people, we must be prepared to make use of it and use it with responsibility and discernment. The decree on morality in Internet teaches us to use the Internet only to develop the common good and solidarity of humanity. The Church is very actively alive in this field through newspapers, TV channels, website, etc. Politics. The members of the Church serve in the field of politics too. They should be led by the model and spirit of Jesus, who came to the world to give freedom to the prisoners, sight to the blind, and release to the oppressed. They must be able to defend the oppressed and exploited in society. The faithful in politics should become the voice of voiceless and offer unstained or unblemished political service. Each citizen has a responsibility to work with the political leaders to build up the society in truth, justice, tolerance, and freedom, and to develop true sense of citizenship. At the same time, the Church teaches that our conscience obliges us not to obey the instructions of the political leaders when they are against moral laws, because we have to obey God more than men, which is from the Catechism of the Catholic Church. So basically, we should strive to be going along with political leaders and their methods, but in the case that it doesn't comply with our conscience of Christianity or the teachings of the Church, we must stand against them if they are against our morals. Okay, we have our own morals the Church teaches us and which Christianity has taught us. If people tend to go against that, we must stand firm in our belief and do the right thing all the time. The fields of art, literature, and culture. The Mother Church is conscious of the role of art and literature in the progress of humanity. The children of the Church contribute valuable service in the field of culture also. Christian writers and artists working in the spirit of the gospel message will maintain spiritual power or zeal in the world. The artists and literary men can depict a better life. The members of the Church have the responsibility to spread the Christian message through cinema, drama, and dance forms that instill moral values, and especially through Christian art forms. Hence, the Church is keen on developing the literary and artistic talents of the children and youth through the faith formation in various associations, and to use them in spreading the gospel message. Now we can understand the reason for why we conduct competitions, singing competition, dancing competitions, and so on. Its purpose is to showcase our Christianity through different forms of media or different forms of different art forms which people can relate very easily to. Okay, that is why the children and the youth are taking part in all these competitions, and that is also the reason why you have a competition coming up in through Mono Act. Okay, it enables you not only to learn about the Bible, it also develops your talents, and it also helps you showcase about Christianity to the whole world. Okay, so that is the purpose of these competitions. So I suggest you take them very seriously and participate. I want every student to participate as well. Protection of the environment. The children of the Church should also pay attention to maintain the balance of nature. Created things are meant for the whole world. We have the duty to handle them justly and protect them for common good. It is not right to exploit nature in a way that is harmful to posterity. The Church has given Saint Francis Assisi, who loved nature and all the creatures and regarded them as stepping stones to God experience, as a patron of the environment. So we must also be protectors of the environment. That is what is mainly seen here. Just like Saint Francis of Assisi, we must learn to love nature and all the creatures, animals associated with our environment. The voice of the gospel against social evils. There are many missionaries even today who do missionary work in different zones of India and outside India. The sacrifice of these missionaries in leaving their own home and homeland to spread the gospel message among the non-believers is really great. They are able to lead many to Jesus through their life witness and preaching of the gospel. As a result of their missionary activities, people have been enabled to gain knowledge and Jesus experience and to react against social evils. When this became a threat to the ruling group who exploited the ignorant people, they began to destroy missionaries. in this slide you can see all the social evils that are currently in India which are hindering our progress. Just take a minute to look through this word cloud and find out all the words so that you can understand what are all these social evils. If there are some words that you do not understand, please look into them to understand more about them. Social evils are prevalent in most countries, in actually the entire world, and in India it is a very big issue for a lot of people if they are, as it is said here, the ignorant people who do not know which is right and wrong. So we must be the people who must educate them and try to bring solutions to all these social evils. In many places, the government also turned against them, accusing them that they were converting people. Many have been a victim of their evil plans, suffering a lot and even giving up their lives. Sister Anna Maria, Father Arul Dos, etc. are some of them. I hope you remember seeing a short video about them and how they suffered or how they became martyrs for missionary activity. Conclusion. Gospel is eternal and ever new. The Church has a responsibility to receive the word of life proclaimed 2000 years ago in the fullness of its spirit and to interpret it to the modern age. The children of the Church should try to present the gospel in the modern world through education, media, art, culture, etc. Now, as it is said here, from the beginning, Jesus started this apostolic mission or the missionary activity by asking the apostles to preach the gospel. That was in the olden days. Okay. Now in the modern day and age, I think our best bet would be the usage of media and the internet. So let's do this for now. Instead of doing your regular activity in pen and paper, I want you to make the activity in an online forum. Maybe make a PPT slide or a poster. Okay, you don't have to print it or anything. Just make a PPT slide or a poster about the list of educational institutions in our eparchy. It might be the institution name along with its image or anything that you want to associate it with, but try to include all the educational institutions around, no other institution, because there are plenty of institutions in our eparchy. Just take the educational institutions and try to create an online poster or a PPT slide. Just one slide will be enough, not more than that. Okay, so just a one-page presentation of the educational institutions in our eparchy will be the activity for you. Okay, so I haven't told about this in the first activity 1, so I'm telling it here. So only if you have listened to the whole video, you will be listening to this, and based on how you are going to submit, I can know whether you watch the whole thing. Okay, yeah. So before I end this session, I want you to take a look at one particular video here. It's about justice. So take a look at this video and let me know what you think about it.
If you were a praying mantis, it would be socially acceptable to devour your mate.
And if you're a honey badger, you have no regard for other animals. You don't care.
If you're a panda with twins, it's normal to abandon one to take care of the other.
But if humans do any of these things, we would call it wrong, unfair, or unjust.
Yeah, why is that? Why do humans care so much about justice?
Well, the Bible has a fascinating response to that question. On page 1, humans are set apart from all other creatures as the image of God.
Yeah, God's representatives who rule the world by his definition of good and evil.
And this identity, it's the bedrock of the Bible's view of justice. All humans are equal before God and have the right to be treated with dignity and fairness no matter who you are.
And that would be nice if we all did that. But we know how the world really works.
And the Bible addresses that too. It shows how we are constantly redefining good and evil to our own advantage at the expense of others.
Yeah, self-preservation. And the weaker someone is, the easier it is to take advantage of them.
And so in the biblical story, we see this happening on a personal level, but also in families, and then in communities, and in whole civilizations that create injustice, especially towards the vulnerable. But the story doesn't end there. Out of this whole mess, God chose a man named Abraham to start a new kind of family. Specifically, Abraham was to teach his family to keep the way of the Lord by doing righteousness and justice.
Yeah, doing righteousness, that's a Bible word I don't really use, but what comes to mind is being a good person.
But what does that even mean, being good? The biblical Hebrew word for righteousness is tzedakah, and it's more specific. It's an ethical standard that refers to right relationships between people. It's about treating others as the image of God,
With the God-given dignity they deserve.
and this word justice, it's the Hebrew word mishpat. It can refer to retributive justice.
Like if I steal something, I pay the consequences.
Exactly. Yet most often in the Bible, mishpat refers to restorative justice. It means going a step further, actually seeking out vulnerable people who are being taken advantage of and helping them.
Yeah, some people call this charity.
But mishpat involves way more. It means taking steps to advocate for the vulnerable and changing social structures to prevent injustice.
So justice and righteousness are about a radical, selfless way of life.
Yeah, and you find this idea all over the Bible. Like here, in the book of Proverbs, what does it mean to bring about just righteousness?
Open your mouth for those who can't speak for themselves.
And what do these words mean for the prophets, like Jeremiah?
Rescue the disadvantaged, and don't tolerate oppression or violence against the immigrant, the orphan, and the widow.
And like here, look in the book of Psalms.
The Lord God upholds justice for the oppressed, gives food to the hungry, and sets the prisoner free. But he thwarts the way of the wicked. Whoa, he thwarts the wicked?
Yeah, in Hebrew, the word wicked is rasha. It means guilty or in the wrong. It refers to someone who mistreats another human, ignoring their dignity as an image of God.
So justice and righteousness is a big deal to God.
Yes, it's what Abraham's family, the Israelites, were to be all about. They ended up as immigrant slaves being oppressed unjustly in Egypt. And so God confronted Egypt's evil, declaring them to be rasha, guilty of injustice. And so he rescued Israel. But the tragic irony of the Old Testament story is that these redeemed people went on to commit the same acts of injustice against the vulnerable. And so God sent prophets who declared Israel guilty.
But they weren't the only ones. There's injustice everywhere.
Yeah, some people actively perpetrate injustice. Others receive benefits or privileges from unjust social structures they take for granted. And sadly, history has shown that when the oppressed gain power, they often become oppressors themselves.
So we all participate in injustice, actively or passively, even unintentionally. We're all the guilty ones.
And so this is the surprising message of the biblical story. God's response to humanity's legacy of injustice is to give us a gift, the life of Jesus. He did righteousness and justice, and yet he died on behalf of the guilty. But then God declared Jesus to be the righteous one when he rose from the dead. And so now Jesus offers his life to the guilty so that they too can be declared righteous before God, not because of anything they've done, but because of what Jesus did for them.
The earliest followers of Jesus experienced this righteousness from God, not just as a new status, but as a power that changed their lives and compelled them to act in surprising new ways.
Yeah, if God declared someone righteous when they didn't deserve it, the only reasonable response is to go and seek righteousness and justice for others.
This is a radical way of life, and it's not always convenient or easy. It's courageously making other people's problems my problems.
This is what Jesus meant by loving your neighbor as yourself. It's about a lifetime commitment fueled by the words of the ancient prophet Micah. God has told you, humans, what is good, and what the Lord requires of you is to do justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God.
I hope you loved the video. Many more will be coming in the upcoming classes. So thank you for tuning in and listening to this session of online catechism. In the next session, we will most probably be looking at the non-detailed subject. So thank you. Have a great day. God bless you.